Fear of flying can literally come out of nowhere when you least expect it as well, especially if you've flown for years and years and been relatively okay with flying. You've not enjoyed it, but you've persevered with it. But you don't understand why there's that gut-wrenching, sick feeling that you have every time you step on board an aircraft. But you do it for your friends and your family because you want to go away on that well-deserved holiday. So today I'm going to talk about a gentleman who came to me about his fear of flying. And because he'd done everything to try and overcome this already, he reached out to me basically saying, you're my last option. I'm not sure whether you can help me, if I'm at all helpable. Now, the first question that I do ask is, are you ready to change? Because if you're ready to change, you created this belief, this story that you're telling yourself that you need to be scared of flying. If you're ready to change, I can help you, but I need to hear that ready to change in his voice. Well, he was literally coming to me on his knees. So we live by metaphors a lot of the time, and I hear the same metaphors with fear of flying all the time. But this was a new one, so I wanted to talk to you about this, where this gentleman said, out of the picture a lot. Just that metaphor, out of the picture. He needs to be out of the picture. And that's because as a child, he'd been brought up with many siblings and he'd always felt out of the picture. But I didn't quite understand what that meant when he first said it to me. So we delved a little bit deeper and it just came down to that he was just there. He wasn't really needed amongst all the other siblings. And that feeling of not being an option, his words, an option, or that he'd always be the exit, i.e. that if, you know, when you go on your computer, and this is the way he explained it to me, you go on the computer and it says, blah, 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 option, yes, no, remind me later, or exit, X at the top. He always felt like he was the exit at the top. See how I can't come up with that out of my mind, because this is powerful words and pictures in his mind. So he came up with that, and we reframed, first of all, that visual effect that he had about his fear of flying, i.e. he wasn't the exit and he didn't need to exit. He was an option, and option being yes. The other metaphor, out of the picture, it came off the belief that he didn't matter. He wasn't needed. Again, the same options again. He was just there. He was never an option, of which he always felt guilty. Guilty when he actually did take the limelight, because he'd always had that ongoing belief, that overthinking that, you know, I'm just the one left behind, and I really don't matter. And this is where this is just so unique to that one person. So we naturally went down several routes, pun intended, where he got the same sick feeling in his stomach. I wanted to know what the root cause to that was, and where and when he actually came up with that feeling because of his flight anxiety. And it was all around the feelings of being annoyed and frustrated. He was annoyed that he was never put first, that he was never an option, that he was never an option. He was never not needed. He was just there, which made him feel annoyed and frustrated. Hence, because he'd never dealt with those low emotions, the fear of flying over the years has actually, that was the symptom that presented itself to him to get his attention, that he needed to deal with that annoyed and frustration. Those were his two emotions. So we delved a little bit deeper as well, because he used to feel guilty about actually getting attention, about being the option. Not that it happened very often, but when it did, he actually felt guilty. So you've got three emotions there, very low emotions: annoyed, frustrated, and guilty. So then it actually led on to, I can't make decisions. Other people have to make decisions for me because I don't matter. So whenever he had to book a holiday, straight away he thought he'd got to lean to his wife and allow her to do everything, even though he may want to go on some different holiday. which I found quite extraordinary twist to this fear of flying client. So making decisions, why should he feel guilty about them as well? If he mattered, he would actually voice his opinion, and therefore his self-esteem would actually soar on board the aircraft because he was going to somewhere that he wanted to go and visit. So I hope this is making some sense to some of you, because I know there's a lot of people book their holidays in January, and now we're coming up to this period of time where people start to go away. Easter's approaching, then Whit Week, and then the summer holidays here in the UK, and that's when it gets extremely busy. But it's also when it becomes extremely busy around travel anxiety, around the fear of flying, around aerophobia, aviophobia. People get terrified, and the anticipatory anxiety, the angst that they feel, that sickness in the pit of their stomach because they feel that they don't matter, again his words, just there, not needed, makes them feel sick to the pit of their stomach. They get that dropping feeling over and over again, and he's never an option. This is where we've turned it around for this gentleman. The first thing I've actually asked him to do is go and book a holiday with him choosing the option. So he makes the decisions. So he does feel that he matters, that he is good enough, that he is needed. And it is an option because he's choosing that option. So again, trying to tie in all these little, what I call unconscious knots, because they're tied together in our emotional mind. And when we release them, we allow the emotion to be released, which tends to come in either tears or coughing or itching or sore throats, that kind of thing. We all have different subconscious moments as well. It's a bit like yes, and we nod our head, and no, and we shake our head. They're automatic, and they're in the background. The subconscious mind, the emotional mind is always running in the background. You need to notice those subconscious moments to help somebody overcome their intense fear of flying. So of course the scene 3, you actually went back to all the regressions or the memories, whatever you want to call them, was where he was always being shouted at because he didn't matter, which always made him feel anxious and worried and have that pit in his stomach feeling again, where he was sick to his stomach, which had actually developed to the point now that he was scared of people being sick around him on board the aircraft as well. And this I'm seeing a lot of. Emetophobia is the fear of being sick or being around people who are sick on board. And it is chronic. There's such a twist on this at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of it. So he was actually making himself sick so he didn't have to go. Oh, bless, honestly. So he didn't have to go because he was just there, not needed, never an option. He'd got to be the exit, so he'd got to get his get out clause. And who would have thought that would have led on to the symptom of fear of flying? So if you think you can't overcome your fear of flying, think again. There's something, as soon as you get to that emotional why, you think a certain way, or you fear, or you have your anxious feelings or nervousness about a certain way. Once you uncover that why, when you get to that root cause, that feeling that is holding you back, keeping you trapped, keeping you stuck, that's actually when you gain the understanding that you've got it. Once you understand that you've got it, then you can let it go. And letting it go is where I use the tools and techniques that I'm trained as a therapist to use, but also I use your words. So a lot of his words were, now the picture is, instead of out of the picture. And the other one was out of the blue that he had as well. And the shouting as well, didn't like the noise. That comes a lot with anticipatory anxiety. They don't like the noise. So we have to really quieten down that noise so you don't feel annoyed, frustrated, all those feelings. Instead, you feel relieved, calm, ready to fly. So if this sounds a bit like you and you'd like to uncover your why, then I'm Victoria Ann Spencer-Kibble from VASK Therapy. I specialise in the fear of flying because I'm an ex-flight supervisor who flew during the 9/11 era. I'm more than happy to gift you your wings.